Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be technically my November wrap up. Kind of not too far away from the month, which is great, but I have a few books to talk to you about. I had a really interesting reading month. I had some new favorites and a few letdowns, but we're going to get into it. I read 5 books for November. I read, let's see, I think 4 of them were fiction, 1 nonfiction. I participated in Dr. November and Historathon, actually, and Nonfiction November. So got 3 reading events done, which was great. And yeah, I'm going to be telling you guys some unpopular opinions, I think, about 2 of these books, but it's okay. It's just my opinion, right? Okay. So anyway, let's get started. I participated in the wonderful reading event called Dr. November, which was hosted by Mark from Book Time with Elvis. And this is a reading event where you read, I was a co-host too, actually. Sadly, because I'm a bit busy, I didn't make it to any of the lives and I didn't post any extra Dr. November content, but I did enjoy the Voxer group chat with the group read and just participating in that event kind of behind the scenes with the other co-hosts. So let's get started. The first book I read was Call for the Dead by John le Carré. And this was his first book in his George Smiley centered series. And George Smiley is a British spy working during the Cold War era. And this was a book about an investigation into the murder of Samuel Fenham that looked or came off as a suicide, but our investigator, George Smiley, thinks otherwise. And it's a bit more of a murder mystery rather than espionage, but characters within the novel were linked to espionage, so I'm still counting it, but whatever. I really liked this. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was very fast-paced, it wasn't that long, and there was something about the writing that I really, really liked. I don't want to say it was cozy because it really wasn't, but I can't really describe why I enjoyed it, but the writing itself was very nice. I really enjoyed the character of George Smiley. I've heard about him through other people talking about these books, so I had a little bit of what to expect. And even though the murder itself wasn't anything, the mystery itself wasn't anything really plot twisty, or it didn't have like this wow factor in terms of the reveal, I just really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And I also watched the film adaptation of, I think it was done in the early 60s. I'll put a picture of the movie cover here. I thought it was well done, very well acted. I loved the portrayal of George Smiley and the other characters. I thought it just fit the book really well. And I think maybe the combination of both enhanced that reading experience for me. So great. I really enjoyed that. Next, I read the second book in the John Smiley series, also by John le Carré, called A Murder of Quality. This one was quite a bit different. This was more of an academic mystery murder as well. It did have to do with some, maybe some elements of espionage, not too much. It had a little less George Smiley in it, but he still was the main character within the book. This one I actually did on audio, and I think it did it disservice because I got lost a bit within the story. It wasn't gripping me as much as the first one, but it was still fairly enjoyable. Again, I didn't really see the ending coming, but it wasn't a huge shock, but it was still, there's just something that I really like about those books. So I gave that one maybe a 3.5, not quite as good as Call for the Dead. And there's also, I think, a 90s adaptation of this book, which I started on YouTube, but I haven't gotten around to finish it yet. So I think once I watch it, I'll enjoy the story more. All right, so next I ended up finishing The Quiet American by Greene. And this was the group read for the event, for the Dr. November event. And we had a Voxer group going and, excuse me, a little chat on Mark's Discord discussing the book. So I know a few of you have read it as well. So this follows a British journalist who's in he's middle-aged, somewhere maybe in his 50s, as he's covering the first Indochina War. And it's, I think this book was published in the mid-50s or so. And it tells the story of this journalist his relationship with a very young Vietnamese woman named Phan, who's roughly 18, 19 years old, and then also the introduction of an American character named Pyle, who comes in with very idealistic views of how he feels the war should be going, how he feels the Vietnam people should be, and it just follows the relationship between these three people and how the idealistic naivety can cause devastating effects when you don't really understand the true nature of a country and its culture and the war going on. So the premise is great. The writing was nice. I didn't find it to be anything incredibly special, but there were moments of really beautiful prose here and there throughout it. Now, I do have a little bit of an unpopular opinion about this book, I think, because most of the people, everybody in the group read that I know of, loved this book, really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that I loved it. I'll put it that way. The first half of the book was a bit difficult for me to get through. I did find it a little boring. I first off just did not like the relationship between Fowler and Phan. I didn't like the character of Phan. She was very flat, very subservient. We don't get any of her perspective, which I think was intentional looking back. But at the time that I was reading it, I was like, ugh, this is so gross. Like, I don't know. It's probably because I have children that are young women, and my daughter is a couple years younger than this character. And just to think of her in a relationship with a 50-year-old man, it just turns my stomach. So that's probably where a little bit of that is coming from. And I feel like I was reading it as I would read a historical fiction novel, you know, that's meant to be more emotionally connecting to the female characters, which I just couldn't connect to. So, but once we got to the halfway point and I started thinking about it a little bit differently, and I started to see the relationship between Fowler and Pyle develop and the conversations they were having and some of the action. There's a particular scene in the book involving a watchtower, and it's very fast paced, and it really got me into the story quite a bit more. So when I got to that midway point, something flipped, and I did start to really enjoy the book quite a bit more. So by the end of the book, I thought it was very well done, but I wouldn't still give it a full 5 stars, maybe around a 4. It was one of those books that when I was finished reading it, I wanted to start over to see if I could experience it in a different way rather than the pessimistic way I went into it. So this was a very thought-provoking book. I think it's really remarkable to know sort of like his thoughts and feelings before the actual Vietnam War occurred and how kind of predictive of the future it was a little bit. But you know, it's a slap in the face a little bit as an American when you just see this stereotypical version of a representative of your country. And, you know, because I could see some of my own personality traits within Pyle. And I think it was just interesting to read it as an American. So very thought-provoking book, but it was a little bit of a letdown. But it's one of those books I think as I continue to talk about with people, it enhances it more for me. So that was The Quiet American. A little unpopular opinion there, but I think I came around a bit towards the end. So next, I listened to and finished The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. This was a wonderful, wonderful audiobook. I think I probably give this 5 stars, 4.5. This was so much fun. I have read another book by her called, actually I have it right here, The Alice Network, which I read last year for Dr. No-vember, which I absolutely loved. Female espionage in World War I and a murder mystery in World War II with a dual timeline. But this one was about 3 code breakers, 3 women, British women, who work as code breakers at Bletchley Park in England. And they work tirelessly during World War II to decipher and uncover different codes that they're able to obtain to get German intelligence to the British, to MI6. And it was absolutely fascinating. It was great characters, wonderful character stories and arcs. Even with the 3 main characters and us flipping back and forth to each female's point of view, it was really fascinating because they were all very different. They all had different things going on. They all had different love interests. They had different personalities. And the voice actor who did the narration did their voices so differently in different regional accents within the UK that it was really great. I mean, I would have known who I was following, even if I didn't, you know, if I forgot who she was talking about right then. So it was a wonderful story, a little bit far-fetched in the end. It's a very long audiobook. It's 16 hours. I think it's around 600 pages, but I never felt that I wanted to rush through it because it was that good. I love this book. I really loved it. So that was one of my favorites to get to. And then I also read and loved The Spy and the Traitor by Ben McIntyre. This one I started last year. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may remember me talking about this, but I started this last year as part of Dr. No-vember, and I put it down not quite halfway through because I got into a really big reading slump, and then I lost steam with it, and I picked it back up again for this year with the intention to finish it, which I did. This tells the real story of Russian KGB agent Olav Gordievsky and his time. Well, it tells the story of his life, basically. So how he grew up in a family of KGB agents. His dad and brother were in the KGB. How he grew into himself and how he started to see the world around him and start to appreciate and feel very strongly towards the way Western cultures were versus the oppressiveness of his communist culture in Russia. And it tells how he defected to the British, to MI6. He worked as a double agent there, but it gets into how, like, what kind of stuff he did, how he snuck around, how he got away with things, how he handled it, how he emotionally handled that part of, I mean, because he knew if he got caught, it would be torture and death and possibly horrible things happening to his loved ones. So this story was so well written. It was so fascinating. And then this is on the back of the book, but it also tells of how he gets caught by Russia and how the British get him out of there. It's just so good. I absolutely love this book. This is one of my favorite books of the year. I highly recommend it. It was wonderful. Yeah, 5 stars for sure. And then lastly, my most recent book, I just finished this last night, so I'm a little bit like, ugh. And this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, and I feel really bad, but you know, it is what it is. It's just my opinion. So I read the 3rd book in the George Smiley series called The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by John le Carré. And this book it was a little bit disappointing for me. I'm going to have to talk about it with other people who have read it because just from my own experience, I just don't understand the hype about it. I'm going to be honest. Now, before I get into the reasons why I didn't like it, I will say that I really do appreciate what he did for the spy genre within fiction, because he was coming from a time where Ian Fleming was glamorizing the role of spies through his James Bond novels. But this book is so much more realistic and gritty, and we have a very unlikable character named Lemus, who is our main protagonist within the book. And we have a situation where he is he's basically controlling a group of spies in East Germany, but they've all been assassinated. So he returns to London to do one final project where they want him to take down the spy master in Germany who has been assassinating all of Britain's spies. So he takes on this case as sort of a revenge plot, and he has to create a cover for himself so that he can be picked up by the Germans to act as a double agent, but in reality he needs to take this guy down. So the premise of the book was really good. Like the story of what actually happened and what was going on behind the scenes was really, really good. And I really thought that was well done, and it was very twisty and it was very interesting. It's just that the way it was executed or the way it was written wasn't really my cup of tea. And I'm not going to go on too much about it because I don't like to call other people's babies ugly. But I just personally had a very hard time with this book. I didn't really understand what was going on for most of it. The writing was really difficult for me, not in a sense that it was hard to read in terms of language, but it was just really like I couldn't follow the plot. And so I think that was part of the problem. The character of Lemus was also very unlikable, but I do appreciate that he was a flawed character, and that, you know, I think sometimes when we read these books, you expect things to go a certain way and they go a different way, and it's a little bit of a punch to the gut, I think. There weren't a lot of redeeming qualities with him that I was really rooting for him. And then there was a female love interest who, again, our main character is in his 50s. The love interest is a 23-year-old woman. And I just don't like that. But I understand that is just how things were written back then. But she was not a very likable character. She was kind, but she was very naive. It was insta-love. I mean, I didn't understand why she had such strong feelings for him when he treated her like garbage. He was an alcoholic. He was emotionally drained. There was nothing, he was like a brick wall around his heart and everything. So I didn't buy into that, where she's willing to die for him and everything. So the story itself, just the way it was executed, wasn't really for me, but I do appreciate and I can see why this was considered revolutionary at that time, especially for the people reading it that were living through the Cold War, and that was present in their life. And I know Daphne du Maurier raved about this book. I don't know. I am going to watch the movie though. I have high hopes that the movie is going to bring it around for me. And I also would love to watch the Quiet American film. I think that's going to bring it around for me as well. Sometimes I need the visual characters to enrich a story. And I am a person that enjoys film probably just as much as reading. Maybe reading a little bit more if I had to choose, like which one I could do forever, it would be reading. But I think sometimes the film adaptations do help to bring a story to life for me in my mind, to get me past some issues I have in my own brain when I'm reading it that way. So also maybe if I had done the audio and the character of Lemus had been brought to life more, it would have worked better. But I think I just felt like it was a bit of a letdown because people just rave about this, just saying it's the best spy novel ever written. And it's like, really? Ever written? That's as good as it's going to get? I don't know. I did find it just anticlimactic in some ways. I'm not even going to talk about the ending because I put a reaction in my vlog if you're interested in checking that out, but I was not happy with that. But upon having a night to sleep on it, I do appreciate a ballsy ending. I really do. So that was that. Yeah, so let me know. Did you like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold? I'm very excited to continue with John le Carré, though. I will absolutely be reading more. I want to read the Carla trilogy, Tinker, Tailor, Soldiers, something, and books within the spy genre. I just had such a wonderful time with Dr. No-vember. It's my favorite reading event, and I'm already looking forward to it next year. And I hope you had a wonderful reading month in November. Please let me know what some of your favorite books are. Please let me know if you like John le Carré and if there's any other ones in those series that you really enjoyed. So thank you guys for watching and for listening to me ramble on, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.